Right, so we're going to do another Carriage Works roundup, and we'll start with the heavy construction end of the workshop. So we've now got 3 Talathlin underframes built. The other 2 have just been finished from next door, and just in the last one is just in the process of having its paint applied. They'll go into storage for a while we work on the first carriage. We're hoping to start the woodworking very, very soon, but before we could do that we had to get all the drawings done, and this is a general schematic of the bodywork. We have all the component drawings and everything we need to do the bodywork. These carriages are based on their current stock, the Tisdale carriages from the 1970s, so they'll be very much along the lines of those carriages. The first one has got a couple of standard third-class compartments, a couple of first-class compartments, and then a disabled access compartment. And when we come to do the second one, which is the same length, but it's reversed, so it's a mirror image, so the disabled access compartment will be at the other end. The third one will just be a standard third class compartment all the way through. So hopefully we'll be delivering this one sometime mid next year, and then we'll deliver the second one hopefully by the end of next year, because we'll start the second one in conjunction while this one's getting close to getting to the paint shop. So obviously underframes in the workshop become very useful as flatbeds for before the frames go on them, and in this case we have components for 808 being constructed. So 808 has reached the stage of needing the seats constructing. The doors have almost been finished, so we just need to get the window drop lights sorted. And we're going to need a lot of space for all the seat components very soon, so seats take up a lot of space when they're not in the carriage. So we've moved into 808 inside it. Internally it's very close, so we've got the window mouldings to do. They're just being made, and they were on the underframe of the Tailfin carriage. And we've got all the table brackets sorted. Tables are made. They need just the final coats of varnish, and as you saw, the seats are progressing. So it won't be very long to get the inside done, but it's all the final details. So things like door stops, polishing those up, you know, door handles, assembling the door handles. It's all that kind of stuff that takes the time when it's finishing a carriage, and it can look quite complete for quite a while, but actually there's quite a lot of work to get them finished. This is the outside of Bob at the moment, looking very much like a Welsh Highland 1920s carriage in the pink primer. So it's just having the final rub down ready for the paint shop. The doors need the same treatment, but then it will be going into the paint shop. However, we do have a bit of a jiggling program at the moment, because presently we've got two vehicles in there that are just close to being finished, but we've also got to get a garret painted, and to complicate matters even more, we're about to have the roof on the 1970s part of the Carriage Works replaced, so that's going to delay things a little bit. So obviously we're probably going to postpone its painting for a few weeks until after the roof has been done, because it makes far better sense to start the job and carry it straight through to the finished completion. Creates a lot less work by doing it that way. So this is a bit you don't normally get to see. This is our timber store normally, but with the roof replacement that's about to happen on the Carriage Works in the next few weeks, this building is actually coming down, at least in a temporary, for a temporary period, so that we can aid putting the scaffolding up and replace some of the sheeting. This building itself is now 20 years old and is starting to show its age. The corrugated iron has been patched a few times now. We are hoping to put a new building here, permanent structure here for the timber store. That may happen later this year. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously it will feature on one of the updates at some point. But yeah, it's obviously involved quite a lot of planning, because we've had to run the stocks of the timber down so that we could empty this out and not take up too much space elsewhere with timber. So yeah, it should happen soon. So this is the replica North Wales narrow gauge Ashbury. It's a brake carriage, so this is the guards compartment. I think it's a third class compartment next, and then a first class, and then some third classes at the end. This is being built by volunteers predominantly, and this is the stage they've got it to. The frame is all glued up, but the roof structure is still to be finished. And they've started just cutting some of the panels, so they're progressing slowly. The doors are still to be looked at, but the timber's just arrived for those, so we'll be looking at those in due course, as all the tongue and groove boarding for it. But they only meet once a month, so if anybody wants to come and join the team, please do get in contact. We'd more than happily welcome people for working on these things. So I'm in carriage 101, old 123, and before that old 101. This is also a volunteer project, up until its paint job anyway, and it's progressing quite well actually. The weekday volunteers have been working on this one on Tuesdays, and again, if you want to come and help, please do make contact. But they're presently putting the gutters on up here, they've done the downpipes, and you can see they put some primer on around the windows to allow us to start putting the glass back into it. Internally, it's almost complete. It's got all the new panelling in. The seats need a bit of attention. They need a coat of varnish, but that'll come later. But the priority at the moment is to get the outside to a point where it could go into the paint shop and have the paintwork done. So yeah, it's making very good progress, this one. So this is wooden coal wagon 163. This has been rebuilt by the Wooden Wagon Federation. It's a group of volunteers who meet nominally once a month again, but they coincide with the metal wagon volunteers, because obviously there's bits of metal they need doing, and vice versa. The metal wagons occasionally need bits of wood doing. So they've got the body framework mostly finished now. There's a few things like cutting bolts off and paint touch-ups and things, and I think they're hoping at their next visit to actually complete this one. So it will then disappear off to Minforth. And you'll be able to see it in the recreation freight trains at the special events weekends. And then they'll start the next one, which I believe is coal wagon, inside bearing coal wagon 19, I think, is the next one they're going to look at. So we've moved into a 16 Road paint shop, which presently is a Locomotive paint shop. So we've got Garrett 143 presently undergoing its 10-year overhaul, and as part of that process we're giving it a fresh coat of paint. So the dome's obviously almost finished. These are some of the firebox sheets. Once these are done, along with these bits, they'll head back to DNAS, and then the actual boiler barrel sheets will come down and have their paint job done. We're obviously quite keen to get those done before we have the roof off the building, because it means we can't work in here while the work's being done on that, and we'd like to see the Locomotive back in service fairly soon. Behind me is the tank, not the tank, the coal bunker for it. We've already finished the actual water tank, and that is back at DNAS. This one's actually having a full repaint because of the amount of wear and tear it gets from the coal obviously being put into it, whereas the water tank was just more of a touch-up and a fresh coat of green. For the modelers out there, its new green colour is deep Brunswick green, whereas before it was in Great Western green, so we've gone for a slightly different shade this time, mainly because we couldn't remember what it was at first. And then we found the tin of paint at the very back of the paint cupboard and realised we'd made the mistake. But it's quite a nice colour, and it should look very nice when it's finished. So we've moved into the other paint shop, 17 Road, and in here we've got number 10 van and the porthole bug box number 12. Both have come in because they needed some attention. They're not actually in use this year, so we've done quite a thorough job on them, full repaints, repair work to the doors, locks and things. As you can see, they're almost finished. This one's had the varnish on the side. It's got to have another coat on the end yet, and then the varnish. So we're hoping within the next week we'll have these two out shopped, and then they'll go off for storage until we want them at Vintage Weekend, I suspect, or any other special thing we might want them for. Having just been asked about this one's liveries, when this one was first restored in the 1990s, it was restored to an all-over maple green colour, so that included the ends and the bodywork. The sole bar down here was painted black, and that's how it ran up until we started implementing the Colonel Stevens livery on the few carriages that we'd got at that time. This one was repainted in the early 2000s into this livery, so this is the middle green livery from Williamson's, and the Festiniog red, which was our own mix at the time based on colours we'd got, and at that point it gained the red sole bar and the red window beads, and that's how it's stayed ever since it's repainted in the early 2000s. Back in the 1920s it actually had red panelled effect, so you got a maroon colour round the panels and around the framework, and the actual panels themselves were in a yellowy colour not entirely sure what kind of shade, probably similar to the internal creamy colour, but more yellowy than what's in this now. And that probably, I mean, it must have looked quite impressive, but it obviously probably didn't weather too well. And that it wasn't the only one done like that. A few of the other vintage carriages were painted like that to try and raise the railway's profile at the time. So the next carriage we've started work on to take the place of 10 and 12 in there is carriage 18. It's looking very worse for wear, I'm afraid. All the white has now turned very, very yellowy, sickly yellow in fact, and it's also crazing and the gold's falling off. So this is having a full repaint, so it'll be a full reline as well. And we'll do some attention to the roof, make sure the roof's in good condition and it's not leaking, and we will also do some repairs to the wood graining inside as well. But it'll basically come back as in this livery, but nice and fresh and new, like 15 did a few years ago.